Do you look at other people's art journals and think, yeah, that's lovely, but it looks really complicated? And you've obviously used all sorts of things that I just haven't got. I want to share with you my 3-stage process that simplifies any art journal and helps you build up a complex image, but also one that's really meaningful to you. My name's Liz Chatterton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. Every week I share a tip or trick I wish I'd known about ages ago. Alongside my beloved watercolours, I like to use art journaling because it helps me experiment with new products or new combinations, and some of my discoveries, if they work, then feed back into my main art practice. It's the beginning of a new year and I have not done a journal page for absolutely ages. So I've grabbed this. It's actually a little board book, a children's board book that I've prepared, and if you'd like to see how I've done it, I'll link the video there. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to get on and do something. And I want this all to be about the year ahead. It's, say, first weekend in January, and I want to think about maybe some New Year's resolutions and what I want for the year. My biggest resolution is stay curious. It's not a resolution. I want to live my life like that. So I'm going to start with writing that. I've written it in pencil, so it will all just fade away, but I'll know it's under there. So why don't you start your journal page thinking about how you want to live the year, and then I'm going to just use up some leftover watercolour. You could use acrylics, you could use pens. I just want to get some colour on the page. This is gesso on here, and you can see it's sort of repelling the watercolour. Not very nice to paint on, but this is just getting rid of some of that white paper. And I really want to use some of this. Give that a jolly good shake. At the end of last year, I did a video all about gold paints and which were the best, and people commented, oh, I absolutely love the Kuretake Brilliant Gold or Gold Mica ink. So I treated myself. See, I do listen. People said, you must try this. So I have treated myself. You can see it is a brand new pot. I thought this would be a good opportunity to see what it's like. Ooh. See how it mixes with my watercolour. That's the gorgeous thing about journaling. You never know where it's going to go. It's really ugly. Ha! It doesn't matter. Another great thing about journaling, I'm just spraying it with a bit of clean water just to get some of this to merge a bit. But the other great thing is, if it all goes hideously wrong, you can just keep going until it goes right. You can layer things, you can, never goes wrong. Do not fear. It allows you to try things out. So if it goes wrong, doesn't matter. If you haven't got that, maybe you've got some gold watercolour, maybe just do this in a few shades of your favourite colour. While it's drying, I'm going to gather some things that I can use for collage. This is a napkin. I've just peeled the top layer off so it becomes very transparent. We had a party last night. All the neighbours round for drinks, very sophisticated. No, it wasn't, because it was us. I therefore have some napkins left over. I want to use those. The other thing I want to use is some stamps. On our local Facebook group, there was a post saying, oh, we've got a stamp collection. Does anyone want it? No one collects stamps anymore. And I'm going to pick these Japanese stamps out because we are hoping to visit Japan this year. We haven't booked anything, but I thought that would be fun. For something blue, because it is incredibly cold in the UK at the moment, -5 tonight. So I think making this sunny and blue rather than cold. Look, I found these. So they've sort of got fibres in them. Once it's dry, I'd like to do a layer of collage on here. And I was wondering about using this as my sort of focal point. So I could rip up some of these. Much prefer a ripped edge rather than a cut edge. You can just fiddle around to your heart's content until you like the design. If you haven't got coloured papers, use a magazine, use an old book, use envelope from junk mail. The choice is entirely yours. Try not to get each side, if we're working across a spread like this, try not to get them too balanced. I am a little concerned with that and that. Maybe it is a bit too balanced. Would that be better? Let's see how that works. We can always do more. Use whatever glue you've got. Journaling like this is about using your materials, not recreating what I've done. But I am using matte gel medium, and I do like the Pabia one because it dries clear. It does give a matte surface, which makes working on top more easy, and it dries pretty quickly as well. It's not that expensive. I'm not using my best watercolour brushes. If you cannot remember, or you are worried that you will not remember what goes where, take a photo before you start sticking it down. What I like to do is put some medium down. You have to be careful because it will dissolve the watercolour underneath. And then I like to put some more on top because that will seal it. So if I want to put more watercolour on top, or as I suspect, I think I'm going to use more of that gold ink, it will have sealed the paper and it won't sort of feather through the paper. The other thing not to worry about, let's get that stamp on as well, is edges, because we can either leave them overlapping if you again like that sort of quite messy junk journal sort of look, or wait till it's all dry and then just trim it. You need to wash your brush so that that glue doesn't dry on it. I sometimes watch people doing journaling and think, well, that's all right for you. You must have the best stock studio in the whole place. If you haven't got any of the things I'm using, just find an alternative. So I'm just going to use an ordinary biro here because I really like these fibres. So I wondered about doing some more fibres. Hold the pen maybe a longer way up so that you've got a lot less control, and sort of wiggle it as you sort of make some marks. I'm going over that stamp, which feels a little like sacrilege, but I'm going to overcome that worry. Do not need to have the most amazing products in the world to do some wonderful and meaningful journaling. And what we're doing is a background. Lots of this is going to be covered up again, but generally in journaling we do a background, then we think about maybe a focal point, and then just finishing touches. And it's almost like putting an outfit together. So, you know, if you're going skiing, you put on your base layers and your salopettes. Then you want your focal point. I don't know, what would you be your focal point if you're skiing? Your bobble hat. I don't know. So focal point. And then the finishing touches, which might be your sunglasses and your base layer. And that can be as many. It could be one medium. It could be 10. Then a focal point. Then finishing touches. As I was doing that, I'm also rather inspired by franking circles on the stamps, and also by the fact, if you look at this, that's got a circle on it as a design, that's got a circle. So I'd like to introduce some circles into here. Oh, look at the stencil I've found. We could use modelling paste on this if we wanted some texture, but I think the book wouldn't shut if I go too thick. Don't usually use acrylic because I'm not that fond of it as a medium, but I had an advent calendar. Don't know whether this will work. I had an advent calendar that had that heavy-bodied acrylic in it. So let's use that. And I am using my fingers because I want to get mucky. You, of course, could use a paintbrush. Good thing about acrylics, of course, is that they dry nice and quickly, and once they're dry, they are waterproof. I'm going to do some more circles, so I've just got the inside of a tape, and I'm going to go back to my pen and just do a couple of overlapping non-perfect circles. I think that's okay. I think that's my background done. And now I want to think about my focal point. This is a top layer of the tissue, so it is semi-transparent, so things are going to show through, especially after it's stuck down. Really good way to cut things out. Again, don't like a cut edge, so just to use a paintbrush, some water, and go around the bit you want to remove, say like that, and then you can tear the napkin and it will follow that little damp line and you will get a lovely torn edge. When you're happy with the placement again, use more of that matte gel medium, but be careful because napkins get incredibly fragile. Can you see how it becomes semi-transparent? So you can see little bits going on underneath it. I have grabbed some acrylic markers. If you haven't got these, maybe a Sharpie pen or a crayon, and I am going to write "Stay Curious" to emphasize that, because that's all got hidden here. Now it's getting very lost. So when you're journaling, say layers on layers. If one approach doesn't particularly work, try something else. The more you layer, the better it will be. Also quite fancy some white dots in the middle of the flowers, maybe. I think it's crying out for a little bit more of this gold. So some of this is the finishing touches. I said, like, that's like putting your jewellery on when you've got dressed, or your sunglasses on. What I'm thinking, this red is catching my eye, and I think I would like to echo that colour over here some way. That would pull that colour across. And how much you want to do of this jewellery is of course entirely up to you. Sometimes less is more and sometimes more is more. And if you're not sure, best thing is stop, go away, make a cup of tea, come back the next day and make a decision from there. I took my own advice and left this overnight so my eyes could come back all fresh. And I thought, do you know, I still want more on those flowers. So what I found was some just ordinary yellow tissue paper, and I've just ripped out some sort of petally type shapes. I am very fond of dots. So I raided the bottom of my hole punch and just found some little dots that I might stick on sort of fairly randomly. And just be careful with tissue paper because it is very fragile when wet. I'm going to put a few of these dots in place. If you're finding these too fiddly to stick on, just use a pen and draw some. It would bring in a little bit more texture. While those are drying, if you have got an overlap that you don't want, this is a time, if it's thin enough, you could just rip it off, because again, I prefer that ripped edge from the cut edge. If it won't tear, obviously just grab a pair of scissors and we're done. Adding those little dots are just like, I don't know, putting your earrings on. How much you want to do, whether you want to keep it understated or go over the top, is of course entirely up to you. If you're interested, I did something similar this time last year, so I'll put a link to that video as well. I hope you found that useful. You can use this 3-stage approach to journaling throughout the year: background, focal point, finishing touches. And I hope that helps you find your own voice and style.